Hey everybody, we are live again.
Yay!
This time back at my house.
Yes.
We tried it a few times at yours. Not that there's anything wrong with that. The internet's not great, but today we decided to come back here to my home studio and broadcast to all you lovely people. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a while. It's weird. Like we did it for like every week for so long. Like how long?
What, like 3 months almost?
I think so. Like 3 months. We were doing it every single week, and that was a lot of fun. So having this week in between is a little strange.
It feels weird. It feels off. I feel like it's been too long.
Yeah, like an eternity. It's strange. I thought, when was the last time? I thought it was before Christmas. I'm like, no, we've done one since then. Anyway, so we're back now. In the last couple weeks, there's been some movement, some development.
Yes.
For those of you who may not have seen it, we got to meet and greet a fairly well-known YouTuber.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's a little bigger now, having collabed with us. But we got to tell him who did we get to meet?
We went and saw Joey, aka Waru Joey, aka the king of DIY himself. And it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
He came over to my place, kind of saw my very humble beginnings of a setup, you know, the studio and what tanks we have going on, which is not a lot at the moment, but we got lots coming up. I even kind of on his channel, on the video that's on his channel, kind of sort of pre-released a build we've got coming up.
Yeah, definitely spoiled a bit of it. But
unofficially.
That's all right. Yeah.
Kind of said what was happening. But yeah, and then I went over to his place, and that's where the video picks up on our channel. And he showed me around the gallery. I got viciously attacked by an arowana.
Now listen. I've got that clip. Should we play the clip for everyone?
I am now missing a finger.
Yeah, it was really a tragedy. It was really sad. I've got the clip. We'll play it for you guys real quick, just so you can see it, and then we'll be right back. Hold on. So here's Thomas at Joey's in his gallery. Check it out.
So one of my favorite things to do is make them fight. Let them get it. You got your hand.
Yep.
See
well, it happened. And let me tell you, not only is that a really hard mouth, it's got a little.
It's got a lot of teeth.
Little teeth in there. Little needles.
All right, so that was you getting bit by Arowana.
Yep, the ninja-wana.
I have to ask the question everyone has.
Okay. Are
you now Arowana Man?
I am.
Are you noticing your body go through changes?
Yes, I am a lot more flexible,
yes.
Especially in the side-to-side motion. I find I can jump out of water several feet now. I keep looking at birds as food. It's been interesting. I'm starting to grow barbels down here.
Now your body's taking on the characteristics of an arowana.
Yes.
How are you using that to fight crime?
I'm not. I'm mostly using it to bite other people. I think I also got that arawana's attitude along with all the superpowers.
You should use it for
I have a lot less chickens now.
You need to use it. Well, yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
You need to use those powers for good, buddy. With great arowana comes great responsibility. All right, so that was a great time we had with Joey. So if you haven't seen that video, I've linked it in the chat. If you haven't seen his video of coming to visit us, we've linked that in the chat as well. It was a really, really good time. And he also, the React series that we usually do, he was kind enough to react to a few aquariums with you. Which I know a lot of people enjoyed. Everyone on his channel seemed to like it as well.
Yeah, and he's got his own flair to it.
Yeah, he's got his own style. It was great, but we really enjoyed it. So check those vids out. So that happened since the last time.
Yes.
That was pretty fun. Our channel grew. I think we ended up we got like a bump of like 5,000 or 6,000 subs.
Yeah, we're up above 70,000.
Yeah, and I'm sure Joey must have got like at least 30 or 40 from us. So.
Maybe 50. Maybe all 60,000 we had at the time.
Yeah, the guy's huge now. You're welcome, Joey. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. But anyway, it's good to be back here 2 weeks after that and answering your questions that hopefully you guys have all brought to the table today.
Hopefully I'm on the ball still. Like I feel like with that extra week of
a little rusty,
a little complacent. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see.
We will see. Oh, before we get into it though, I have one question. Well, not a question, more of a I have a bone to pick with you.
Okay. Is it donuts?
It's donuts, man.
Okay, so here.
We agreed last time that every stream there will be donuts and he will bring them and they will be ready for me.
Okay, what you don't know, and Brian knows, myself and my whole family have been pretty sick for about a week. We got some kind of crazy cold, and anybody with little kids knows that if your kids get sick, your life gets harder because they don't sleep as well, and that means you don't sleep as well. Well, when you're congested and have a sore throat and have a hard time sleeping already, and then your kids are also not sleeping well, it just murders you. Long story short, I'm just getting over it. Like, I'm just past the hump. And I would have not done this live stream if it wasn't already scheduled, but I feel obligated, and I want to make sure that I do these things. Anyways, long story short, I don't want to get Brian sick. I don't want to share food with him right now. I don't want to be putting my hands in and out of a box of donuts that you're going to be eating out of, because I don't really want to get you sick. I don't know if I'm contagious or not still. I already feel
you're
like
right beside me here. Like,
I'm trying not to talk in your direction. I don't want. I'm telling you. I want to get you sick.
I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. Okay. So anyway, with that said, let's get into the questions. Enough of this.
Okay.
I'm gonna just kind of calm myself here. Think about donuts while you answer this question. I have this pond that was dug 20 years ago that waters my barn. It grew out wildly with lots of water space. Okay. Can I stock it with koi without having to feed frequently or take them out for winter?
I don't know, because I have not nearly enough information. So to winterize koi, you should have a depth in your pond somewhere of more than 3 feet. And I think the best rule of thumb is 6 feet. So as long as there is a good section of water that is at least... In my opinion, I think 6 feet's a lot safer. At least 6 feet in depth. As long as you don't mind putting something in the pond, either a de-icer or a really strong aerator to keep a portion of the water open throughout the winter so that there is oxygen exchange. And if it has lots of live plants and stuff in it, that can help with filtration. If you don't plan on running a filter of any kind, it is possible that you could keep koi in it. Possible. I wouldn't know without really seeing the pond and getting a lot more information on it. So what I would do is reach out to us via email to our support team. And if this is something you're really serious about, we can help you figure out exactly whether or not your pond's going to be fish friendly.
It's 12 feet deep.
Oh,
so you know.
That's definitely deep enough to winter koi in. That's not an issue. 12 feet is wonderful. The only thing you'd want to make sure you have is water movement. Water movement really helps koi a lot. So it could be as simple as adding a debris handling pump to circulate water in there and having some way to keep the water open in the winter so it doesn't freeze completely, whether it's a pond de-icer or a huge aerator to keep the surface moving rapidly. And then, yeah, I think you probably could.
Cool. Good luck. I have a 10-gallon with guppies, neons, blue ram, rummy nose tetras, and a cory, but just recently, like 45 minutes ago, I noticed 2 of the fish have ick.
Yikes.
The blue ram and the rummy. What do I do?
Let's figure out why they have ick. So first thing, do a whole gamut of tests on the tank. You want to test ammonia, nitrate. I'd even have just a peek at pH. The hardness I wouldn't be worried about at all. Check your temperature. Has the temperature fluctuated recently? If you have large fluctuations in temperature in a short period of time, maybe you had a really cold day and the heater couldn't keep up with it, or maybe there was a draft in the room because somebody left the window, whatever, that can cause fish's immune system to drop and they can get sick from that, just like people do. So yeah, you got to figure out why they got ick. Fish don't usually just get ick and die from ick. Usually they get ick because something caused their immune system to become weakened. They get ick in the same way we can get colds from time to time. You know, you're not the healthiest at that moment. Cold takes over, whereas other times of the year when you're feeling a lot better and, you know, you're healthy, you don't get sick as often. Just like people get sick in like the fall and winter, more so with colds than they do in the summer and spring. So figure out why the fish is sick and then try to correct whatever it was. If it was something as simple as a temporary change in temperature in the tank, then the fish will likely get better on their own as long as that doesn't happen again. But yeah, figure out what happened first. If they start to get really bad, or if you're concerned the other fish might pick it up, you can quarantine them. If you don't have a quarantine system, it's as easy as just getting another small tank. For those 2 fish, a 5-gallon would suffice with a hang-on filter or a sponge filter or something. We have a video on how to set up a quarantine system. Brian can link.
I will do so.
And yeah, you can quarantine them and monitor them there. But yeah, gotta check, see what you think might have done it. Got to do a little bit of sleuthing. If you need some help, reach out to our support team, and they can also walk you through it. Yeah,
I've linked that email in the chat. So again, any very, very specific questions to your fish or whatever's going on that we can't really see or get enough context for, email our support team with pictures and video and context, and they can do their best to help you. Saw a Kijiji ad. Kijiji, for people who don't know, Kijiji is like a Craigslist type thing in Canada. In Canada, yeah. Saw a Kijiji ad for a tank Thomas designed and set up. Was it Thomas?
Probably. If it's a 265-gallon tank, that's probably right now full of African cichlids and has like a nice 3D background and all that. What sump is on that thing? I think it got upgraded with a Trigger Systems. What was it? Trident sump, something like that. Anyways, yes. Yeah, I did.
Unfortunately, he had to sell that before moving to Nova Scotia. Which is sad, but for something that big, you kind of have to make a decision, right? So,
yeah.
And you did.
Yep. And I think the owner of that tank decided they want to upgrade and go even bigger, which happens.
Yeah, it's kind of the way it goes, right? You start with like a 5-gallon, next thing you know, you got a 10-gallon, next thing you know, you got a 50-gallon, and then
exactly. So yeah, that's probably what happened.
I'm scared of. So I'm a little afraid of that. Like I got these little guys. I'm going to be setting these up for my kids at some point. And I'm afraid, like, next thing I know, my whole basement's going to be
Here's what I think will happen. If you set up all three of those tanks, you are more likely to amalgamate them into a larger tank than you are to end up with 3 larger tanks.
Gotcha. Okay. But you never know.
Unless you have, like, piranhas in one and guppies in the other.
You just
none of these tanks are big enough for piranhas.
You're inspiring me now. All right, well, not piranhas.
You gotta get this done.
I know. Well, we got all your videos we've filmed that I think are generally more interesting, so we're gonna do that. And then at some point, we'll film videos of me setting these guys
I think
up.
There's a solid argument to be made that there are a lot of folks with kids out there who might want aquariums that would benefit more from these videos than they would from setting up a low-tech planet tank.
That will be the idea, is that I'm not an aquarist. I don't necessarily have a genuine interest in becoming a full-fledged aquarist, but I know my kids would love having a fish tank. So
a half-fledged aquarist. I just eat fish.
Yeah. So I'm just going to be setting these guys up and showing people how you can do that. That's the idea. Eventually I'll get there, but I'm afraid that, I will... The bug will get me, and the next thing you know, I've got, like a gallery in my basement as well.
Hey, so. You know the right guy if the bug bites you.
That's true. Yeah. One phone call away. Okay, next, guys, make sure you hit that like button, by the way. Very important. It'll help us out big time. So if you haven't hit that like button yet, please do so. That would make both of us, Thomas in particular, very happy.
Yay! It would. Yes, I would love it.
So I have a 5-gallon, and I'm thinking of getting white cloud minnows and a mono shrimp. Any tips?
You picked a very easy fish to keep. I think they're very underrated. In fact, I was planning to put a group of white cloud minnows in the low-tech planet tank.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Spoiler alert, I didn't. But I'm not telling you what I put in there. I think they're a great fish. They're, again, very easy to keep. They stay out in the open. They're a lot of fun. A mono shrimp are very easy as well, in my opinion. Any tank I've put them in that has, plants and algae, they do just fine. If you're not planning on doing a planted tank, I would probably pass on the monos. They really do best in a planted system. So that should really be the focus. So I'm going to assume maybe you're going to put plants in. Usually people put a mono shrimp in as a part of their cleanup crew. Otherwise, if you're not going to do that, there's other fun shrimp you can put in the tank, like flower shrimp, pom-pom shrimp, the little guys with the wavy hands.
They sound adorable.
Or Mexican dwarf crayfish. They shouldn't bother the shrimp at all. They're larger than shrimp. They look like wee little lobsters.
And they speak Spanish, so that's cool.
They do. Yeah. No, I don't really have any tips other than make sure the tank's cycled. If you want some easy plants, we've got a video for top 5 plants, but I'll just tell you what they are. Some really easy plants are Java moss, Java fern, Anubias. What else did I put in there? Crypts and vowels. Jungle vowels specifically. They're probably a little big for a 5-gallon, but yeah, and just slow and steady wins the race, and just make sure you cycle first, get everything running, patience, and you should do just fine. I think you've got a good selection, especially if this is your first rodeo.
Cool.
/ aquarium. Having those fish will not help you in a rodeo. Guys, help me! They're just like, what is this guy up to? Anyways.
Johnny B says no donuts until Brian sets up his tanks.
Johnny, you nailed it, buddy. Ha!
You're not welcome here anymore, Johnny B. I'm just kidding. You're welcome here.
You're always welcome.
Yeah. Now I'm going to set these up tonight.
Donuts tomorrow.
Donuts tomorrow. I expect it. Okay. Next up is, will neon tetras school with cardinal tetras? And is it okay to keep 8 neons and 2 cardinals?
I've found in a lot of instances that when I keep small schooling fish, whether or not they're the same species, they tend to follow each other around. I think it's a little bit instinctual when they see fish moving in a school away from something that is determined as a threat or potential threat. They kind of just follow the leader and don't even pay attention to what they're following. I've had baby tangs follow clownfish or wrasses. They're not paying attention. They're just used to schooling as babies, and they're like, oh, let's just go that way. The fish went that way. It's roughly the same size. So I've set up in the past a 20-gallon planted system, and I had both cardinal tetras and galaxy rasboras. Not the same fish. Don't look at all the same. But they schooled together all the time. If I walked up to the tank and they decided to dart away, it was all together, all in the same direction, every time. When they weren't, facing any sort of perceived threat, they were often in their own groups. I would see mostly the neons by themselves, sometimes with one stray galaxy rasbora, or the galaxy rasboras by themselves with one stray cardinal. But ultimately, when it came down to it, they moved as a group. So I think there is a very good chance your tetras will school together, whether or not they are the exact same color. Rummy nose with cardinals, neons with black neons, whatever.
Cool.
Yep.
I have a white shark in my 20-gallon long, but the fins and tail don't fit. What can I do? White shark? Like,
what?
Great white shark? What do you mean? What? Is there another thing called a white shark that isn't a great white shark? This is like the mediocre white shark? Like, what is a white shark?
I don't know.
Oh, man.
The common names can be...
Raul Rivera, please let us know.
Yeah. More. The fins and tail don't fit.
Like, it reminds
is
me
this a joke?
It reminds me of the graphic off of our video. Do you remember? Like,
yeah. That's just stuffed into the bowl.
In a little bowl, yeah. Help.
If your fish doesn't fit in your tank, get a bigger one. Nothing should be touching anything.
All right. So I have guppies, and when I went to the store and they said feed them 2 days later, and today I feed them, so do I always give them every 2 days?
No, you can feed them daily. Usually when you're recommended to wait feeding for a couple of days when you purchase new fish in a new system, let's say, is because the stress of being moved can sometimes turn fish off of food for a little while. Sometimes it's up to 48 hours. And you don't want to be putting food into the tank and it not getting eaten. So that's usually why you are told to wait a couple of days before you try feeding them. Now, when you add new fish to the tank, if you put any more fish, you don't have to follow that rule because you still have to feed the fish that are already in the tank and comfy in there. When you add new fish, if they choose not to eat, it's less of an issue because there's other fish to eat that food. But if it's a new tank and you just put the first batch of fish in, waiting a couple days just so they get a feel for their new space before introducing food can help prevent wasted food.
Cool. I want to let everyone know, for those of you who may be new to these live Q&As, I've seen a couple of people saying, oh, my question's not being answered. We do answer in order that we receive them. So if we get to yours, it'll probably be in just a little bit. We try to get to as many as possible. But just so you know, if you did ask a question, we're not answering it yet. It's because we are going in order. First come, first serve.
We still have lots of time. We do. Our stream's an hour long, so
but first
we'll
come, first
probably
serve.
get to it.
Just we gotta keep that in mind. Should you run an air stone while injecting CO2 in your aquarium? Why or why not?
I'm gonna say don't, because the whole point of injecting CO2 is to add CO2. If you run an air stone to agitate the surface of the water, you're gonna push the CO2 out of the system through gas exchange. In the exact same way that we run air stones or power filters on tanks to try to bring in more oxygen, you're going to do that. And the more oxygen you bring into the system while you're trying to pump CO2 in is just going to push it out. So what I generally recommend, if you're going to run an air stone, which there's no problem with running one in a planted tank, you just do it when the CO2 is off. So what you would typically do is have a solenoid on your CO2 system that would shut the CO2 off at night, because plants don't respirate the same way at night as they do during the day when they photosynthesize. In fact, it can be the opposite. So what you want to do at night is shut the CO2 off so you don't have a CO2 dive because your plants aren't using it anymore. And you can run an air stone to bring more oxygen into the system because your fish are going to require it since the plants aren't going to be giving off oxygen in the same way they do while the light is on. So yes, run one, but if you're going to do it at night when the CO2 is off, not during the day when the CO2 is on.
Cool. Hey, Thomas, do you have any tips for taking care of 4 goldfish and a gold gourami and a cory in a 10-gallon?
Yes, get rid of the goldfish. I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but that is the answer you're going to get from me.
4 goldfish?
1 goldfish doesn't belong in a 10-gallon. Goldfish get far too large and they're far too messy. The minimum I would be comfortable putting any goldfish in is just 1, even if it's a feeder, because it's going to grow a lot, is 35 to 40 gallons. And I know there are people out there who will argue with me on that and say it should be at least 60 gallons. So 4 goldfish in a 10-gallon is horrendously too many goldfish. And I don't know. I don't usually, sorry for kicking the camera. I don't usually, blame people when they get goldfish and put them in a 10 or something. Usually this is just misinformation, or you're getting poor information from the store you're buying from, or whatever it is. Sometimes you've just adopted an aquarium and this is what it came with. So you're trying to work with what you got. But I would heavily recommend taking those goldfish to your local fish store and trading them in, or seeing if they will take them, or whatever it is, and moving on to something that is a lot easier. I would probably even get rid of the gourami. For 10 gallons, I think you'd be way better off with a few live bears. I think guppies are awesome for 10-gallon tanks, maybe some small tetras instead. Or you could do a betta in a 10-gallon tank and keep your, I think you said there's a cory in there?
I believe so. 4 goldfish, gold gourami, and a cory.
Yeah, keep the cory, get rid of the goldfish and the gourami, and, move on to some fish that are more appropriately sized. Your other option is to get a bigger tank. A way bigger tank. But it's a lot easier just to change fish.
How long does it take a tank to have clear water? I have a 20-gallon with 13 tetras with a 70-gallon fluval filter and a corner filter.
Okay, so clear water can be interpreted in lots of different ways. So is your water a green color? Is it a gray color or a white color? Is it a yellow color? Are you seeing particulates, like things actually floating in the water, is why you're saying it's not clear, because those all have a different remedy. But I do have a video which Brian's going to link, and he actually was so prepared for this, that is basically 3 simple steps to getting crystal clear water with the most common issues that you're having with water coloration or particulate matter. And that works almost every time for me. But if it is a whiteness or a grayness from a bacterial bloom, it's possible that your tank is just requiring some extra time to cycle. And if that's the case, feed a little bit less every day, or feed every other day until that cloudiness goes away, so that you're putting less stress on your biological filter. If it is green water, that's a different problem. It has to do with lighting, but we have a wicked video we just put out on how to combat algae. And at the end of it, I say the easiest way to get rid of green water is to use UV sterilizer. However, any of the other methods in there, like blacking out the tank, or one person actually in the comments mentions just doing water changes. If you have high nutrients or phosphates, water changes is going to help with that, or using a phosphate remover, etc. So then you'd want to go about that green water with either getting rid of the algae through the means of UV sterilization or clarification, or removing the nutrient in the water that the algae is using. But yeah, so depending on the cloudiness, you'd attack it differently. But if you have more questions, reach out to support or watch those videos I just mentioned, and you should be able to get through it pretty easily.
Cool. Someone asked, will there be another episode of What Brian Learned This Week? Not this week. We're doing these every 2 weeks now, so I figure it's probably better just to get right to questions and not. But maybe in the future, we'll see. If I learn something new, that's really
If enough people are bugging us for it again, well, we'll do it. But we're trying to give you guys as much Q&A as possible.
But thanks for asking. Appreciate it.
I missed the segment.
Yeah, me too a little bit. But we'll see. We'll bring it back once we get back into the groove of these. Hey, Thomas. I was wanting to ask you, what does the rule of thirds mean? I've heard you mention it in your vids, but never quite understood what it meant. Please, I would love some tips on aquascaping.
Okay, so the rule of thirds, which is used in photography quite often, and if you look up how to apply the rule of thirds in photography or filmmaking, you'll get a really good grasp of it. Mm-hmm. And all we do is take that and apply it to aquariums. What makes aquariums a little bit different is that when you're filming or painting or, taking photographs, you're dealing with basically 2 dimensions. When you're aquascaping, you're dealing with 3 dimensions. So not only are we dealing with how something looks directly from the front, but also the 3rd dimension front to back. So we're dealing with that depth. But what essentially it is the general recommendation that if you were to divide your canvas or your workspace into 3 equal sections, that you would pick one of the 2 lines that divide that workspace or canvas and put your focal point or the thing that you are focusing on in the photograph, whether it's a mountain or a deer or a car, and you would stick it on that 3rd line. You can then further divide your canvas, not only side to side into thirds, but top to bottom into thirds. And that would give you 4 points, if you can imagine those intersecting lines. And if you actually own a camera, you can usually ask for grid lines on the camera, and it will do that for you. It'll actually give you those grids.
Just to help you actually plot it out.
And that is for the rule of thirds. So you could focus at that point, the tip of that mountain that is on the 3rd line, at the top point, the top intersection. And that would give you what is considered an aesthetically pleasing look. It's a balanced photograph where you have proper negative space being mixed with your focal point in a position that is going to keep the eye drawn to it. So all we're doing is using that information and applying it to how we aquascape tanks to have that same pleasing result. The golden ratio is very similar to the rule of thirds. It just uses a different, basically uses math to calculate that. And that math is coincidentally a very similar math to what the Nautilus shell looks like. So if you watch the Planet Tank episode where I scaped the tank, I actually drew the lines, like the low-tech Planet Tank. I drew the lines on there and kind of explained a little bit how the scape I did fell within those rules. So yeah. I hopefully it's a large subject you could get into, and it takes some practice. But if you follow the rule of thirds to a T, just do exactly what it tells you to do, you will get something pleasing to the eye. The trick is when you use the rule of thirds but break the rules a little bit. So maybe it's not exactly on those lines, but offset a little bit, or maybe you have a second focal point as well. That's where things start to get really, really attractive and really interesting. But learning the very basics of the rule of thirds first gives you a wonderful place to start, and you will basically evolve from there naturally.
Yep.
Hopefully that covered it.
Cool. How are the tank setups going?
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about setting up aquariums when you're filming everything. It takes longer. It just plainly takes longer because instead of, I could set up most of these tanks in less than a day. Doesn't even matter like what size. If I have all the equipment there, I can plug away at it and get it done. But when we're filming it, something simple that should take 5 minutes can take 15 to 20 minutes, even an hour, because not only am I doing it physically, but I'm talking about it and explaining everything in length. So, or at length, I guess. So,
I'm like, Thomas, get out of the way. That was out of focus. I can't see. And he's like, oh, and it bogs the process down.
But yeah, so long story short, it takes a while because of the fact that we're bringing you all the information, recording it all, but it's going really well. The high-tech plant series is going to start very, very soon. We have another update coming up for the low-tech series. We've got a massive tank that we're going to be setting up soon. We've got another massive tank that will be coming to get set up. Yeah, it's going to be nuts
on deck. But we do, especially with the beginner series, like we've been doing the how to choose an aquarium, how to that's sort of taken a lot of energy. But we wanted to start the new year, have the new year begin with all these builds on deck. So they are coming. So keep your eyes peeled for that because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and these ones obviously are going to get set up too. We'll count those. They're not in the studio, but...
and do not put those on the par with what he's doing. Okay, these are going to be fairly disappointing.
Don't sell yourself short,
all right, fair enough. I know the rule of thirds, so hopefully that'll help me out. Will trimming the leaves of a tiger lotus lily that reach the surface make it more bushy?
I don't know, because I haven't tried. But I will say this. Most plants respond to the trimming of leaves by making more leaves. And often when you trim a leaf on a plant, again, I don't know if this works for bulb plants like lotus, but a lot of other plants it works for. If you trim the leaf, especially at a node, there is no node on a bulb plant that I'm aware of. it will replace that leaf with 2 leaves or more sometimes, rarely with just one other leaf. And it's a good way to get a plant to grow bushier faster. Never tried it on a lotus. Plan on using a lotus bulb for a plant tank at some point in the future. So I will give it a shot. But if you try it first and you have some success with it, let me know.
Yep. Comment on our vids and let us know.
But yeah, the theory would be that it would work. Some plants are different. I'm sure it doesn't work on a cactus.
Will a honey gourami be okay with angelfish?
I would be willing to bet no. I'd be willing to bet your angelfish will probably pick on it. Angels can be pretty territorial, even with other angels, and like most cichlids or aggressive fish, if it resembles them at all, swims in their territory or general space at all, they will see it as a threat and they will probably act upon it. So I would say it's not a great idea.
Cool. How do we stop a mbuna? Is it mbuna or mabuna?
I say mabuna.
Mabuna.
Mabuna matata. That's not it.
For some reason, it's like mbuna. How do we stop an mabuna cichlid from digging up everything in the tank?
You don't. That's like asking a mole to stop living underground. Could you stop that mole? Nah, this is where I live. They do that, and they're gonna do that. Cichlids are Africans. A lot of South American cichlids. Many cichlids are excavators, and they will do that, and you cannot stop them, and it is aggravating. All you can do is give them lots and lots of dirt to move around, like gravel, and they will do what they want with it. And if there's enough in there, they'll never get to the glass on the bottom of the tank if that's what your problem is. But stopping them from doing it is removing them from the tank, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you may have mentioned this in the answer to another question, and I just didn't hear it. Is it okay if you have a gold gourami with goldfish? Because I've had them with each other for like half a year, and they're just fine.
Yeah. I mean, yes. Technically, you can. A lot of people would argue you shouldn't put goldfish with tropical fish because goldfish do better in cold water or cooler water than those tropical fish would want. But I would argue that goldfish can be kept in very, very, very warm temperatures. I've seen goldfish in ponds that are like 80 degrees in the summer. And 78, 80 degrees. And they do just fine. The thing is, because goldfish are they're waste machines, their metabolism increases as the temperature goes up. So the higher the temperature, the more they want to eat, the more they end up pooping, and the faster they do it. So they make warm water tanks very dirty very quickly. So I would say your biggest hurdle is the fact that your goldfish are going to be poop machines in warm water that the gourami is going to want to be in versus the cooler water that they can easily tolerate. In the low 70s, even mid 60s, they don't care. So yeah, it's okay. They just poop more.
Bit of a poop issue.
Yeah.
How long do baby ram's horn snails take to grow into adults?
Don't know. But I would say it's probably not long. I would say well within 6 months. Probably a lot less than that. Small invertebrates tend to grow very quickly. Snails grow pretty fast unless they're like saltwater turbo snails. I've seen turbo snails the size of baseballs. It takes them a long time to get that big. But little snails like that should grow pretty quick.
Cool. Goldfish and guppies, can they live in harmony?
Same answer as the gourami.
Cool. Let's see. I have a 5.2 gallon tank and I'm thinking about getting white cloud mountain minnows and Amano shrimps. Any tips? Question mark.
5.2 gallon? Was it a 5 gallon earlier or a 10 gallon?
As a 10 gallon, I believe.
Same answer.
Same answer? Okay,
yeah.
Great. Okay.
If you weren't here when I answered the one about the 10 gallon tank, just wait until the video ends and it'll get posted, like the live stream ends, it'll get posted as a video. It was very early on that I answered that. So yeah.
How many days, and maybe you don't know this, but how many days required for guppies to get to an adult?
I don't know sexual maturity, but they are pretty darn big after 1 month. Like they're getting close. I would say probably within 3 months they're probably ready to rock. I would guess. I don't know for sure, but I would wager they grow fast.
Cool. Just a reminder: hit that like button, please. We still have a good amount of time here, and it would help us. So pretty please.
It would help a ton.
We would love that if you could hit that.
I would love it.
Just quit. Just like
so much.
And just click it. And then we'll keep going. We're not going to keep going until we see more light. No, I'm just kidding. My aunt's giving me a couple of her shrimp soon. As I don't have the means to quarantine, how should I go about introducing them to my tank?
If you have shrimp in your tank already, I can understand the need or the desire to quarantine. If they're the first shrimp going in, I wouldn't worry about it as much. I would... anytime I add shrimp, I like to drip acclimate inverts. I know some people don't think it's worth the time just because you would have to acclimate them like over a period of days to a change in water chemistry for it to not affect them. But I like to drip acclimate small inverts into my systems. I think it's just a little bit easier. Obviously, you want to make sure that the temperature is the same, and that's probably the biggest killer or the fastest killer if you're going to just drop anything into your tank quickly. But yeah, I like to drip acclimate over the course of half an hour to an hour. But that's just me. We have a video on drip acclimation, I think.
We do. I'll find it and link it. People are loving the goldfish. Can I keep Corydoras palliatus with my goldfish?
If your goldfish have sand as a substrate, then I think it's just fine. Again, you'll run into the issues with them, wanting warm water, and then your goldfish pooping a lot faster and eating a lot more and growing quicker.
How big does an Asian sun catfish get?
Do what? Asian sun cat. I think they're a little yellowish catfish, very catfish looking, maybe with a black dot. Oh, nailed it!
Very impressive.
I surprised myself. I think they get like 6 to 8 inches. I don't know. You're going to have to Google that quick, bra guy. Just Asian sun catfish size.
Oh, size. Okay, sure.
Yeah. And
we should probably go to not images.
Yeah.
Fish keeper. Let's see this.
I want to see if I'm right. I could be wrong.
Maximum
Whoa!
size, 17 inches. 17.7 inches.
So bigger than I said.
Yeah.
By a factor of like 2.
Yeah, crazy big.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So there
Big
you go.
fish.
Hey guys, today I just added my Betta fish to my tank, and it's very, very shy. Any tips on Betta fish?
It's normal for fish to be shy when you first change their environment. Super normal. Just give it some time. What I would do is when you're in front of the tank, don't attempt to get them to come out. Don't rapidly look around the tank trying to find them. Just sit in a chair, 3 feet away from the tank and just sit there and observe. And they should, after, 5-10 minutes tops, start coming out. Mm-hmm. And you can watch them. They will over time get used to you being there. Like for instance, the fish that I've recently added to a system that I have at my house that I can't tell you what the fish are. They are very elusive and shy right now, and that is completely expected.
It made shooting the video pretty challenging. They're
Yeah.
like, hey, check out these fish I got. I'm like, well, there's no fish in there.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you messing with me?
And the more plants you have, the harder it is to find anything. So, if you sit across the room or a few feet away from the tank and you sit still, they'll come out. They'll realize, that thing's not going to eat us. They're just afraid. And any little fish seeing a giant thing walking around the tank is afraid. I actually saw a fantastic photo the other day on Facebook or something that was like what you see when you feed your fish. And it's just like a hand over the tank. And then what your fish see when you feed your fish. And it's just this huge face with this hand and this. And it's such a great example of why your fish run the heck away.
Yeah.
But yeah, just be patient.
Terrifying, for sure.
Be patient, and over time they'll get used to it. The fish that I have in my house, it's only been a week since I added them, and they're already becoming less elusive. And that's just with me going downstairs more often, feeding them, and through that interaction, they tend to come around.
Awesome. Can 3 Corys, a guppy, and a pleco fit in 10-gallon?
What Corys? What pleco? I'm going to say no to the pleco right off the get-go. There aren't a lot of plecos that are going to say small enough for a 10 to truly be appropriate for their whole life. So I would nix the pleco for sure. If you're getting dwarf Corys, like panda Corys or something, and you're going to have sand in your tank, then that should be fine. But I would definitely nix the pleco.
All right. Are apple snails different from mystery snails?
I'm not really a snail guy, but I would think they are. I think apple snails and mystery snails are different.
Apple snail, mystery snail.
Right here. Okay, so a mystery snail is Pomacia bridgesii. Apple snails are an Ampullaridae species. So, yes, they are different. Completely different.
Pomacia maculata.
There you go.
There you go. So they are different.
Maculata versus something else errata.
Cool. All right, so there you go. We all learned something new here today. Can you keep plants in a brackish water tank? And if so, what would do best?
Not really. No. I bet you there are probably some macroalgae for marine tanks, saltwater tanks that would do just fine in a brackish setting. Something maybe like sea turtle grass, manatee grass, maybe caulerpas would do okay brackish. The most obvious plant I can think of that would do just fine is mangroves, but mangroves aren't truly fully aquatic. They take forever to grow, and they need very high light to do well. So, unfortunately, most aquatic freshwater plants, or all aquatic freshwater plants that I can think of, will not tolerate salt. And in fact, whoa, Brian.
Nothing.
So,
now you're kicking the camera.
I am.
What's going on here?
It's mayhem.
All right.
Any plant that can handle salt has a specific name, a hydrophyte, I believe. But yeah, so the short answer is there aren't any freshwater plants that will do well in a brackish tank. There are some saltwater plants that theoretically may, although I haven't seen it done. And obviously mangroves would do just fine. But that's might not be the look you're trying to achieve.
What's the best type of live rock?
Subjective.
What's your best type of live rock?
I really like Caribsea's Life Rock. I think it's awesome. It's a completely man-made substance.
Is this what you use for most of
Yeah, and I probably won't. Honestly, I don't see myself using anything else until somebody comes up with something better. But it's a completely man-made rock. It's got a pigment that they cover the entire rock in that is infused with a dormant bacteria that stays that way until you introduce the rock to a saltwater. And then the rock basically becomes live rock over a short period of time. I've used Marco rock in the past and other types of white base rock. Or Marco rock is actually a quarried stone, and then they acid bath it to make sure it's nice and porous. And it looks a lot like live rock and functions just the same. It is a calcium carbonate rock or limestone. But I find that whenever I use those white stones, the cycle takes way longer. And in part because the rock is very white, it gets algae very quickly. I've had massive Lingabia algae outbreaks using that kind of rock during a cycle that take lots of time to get past and lots of cleanup crew. I have not had that experience once with live rock. I have gotten algae on live rock, but it has never been an issue. And in fact, I did a build, which Joey saw in the video where he comes to my house. So if you watch that video, you'll see the tank. We had to set up in an extremely short period of time for a sort of like a commercial shoot for a company. And that saltwater tank was set up and established in less than 3 weeks with corals. And I used Caribsea Life Rock. Guess what I didn't have? Any kind of an algae outbreak.
Cool.
So yeah, I really, really like that rock. My favorite is their original and their shapes box. They sell a box of like caves and arches and stuff. They have a branch as well, but I find that all the branches are very, very similar, so I don't really like that specific type of their rock, but the other ones are incredible, and I love it. Yeah.
Cool. Just for someone asking, are we answering questions randomly? No, we're answering in order.
Yes.
So those who showed up for our 11 a.m. EST time and they asked their questions, we're starting right from there and going and trying to get through as many as we can. So fingers crossed we get to yours, but if not...
We're 3/4 of the way through the stream, so we still have some time.
Yeah, so
and I will try to start answering a little bit more concisely to try to get through as many as possible.
You do you, okay? You're doing great. You're doing great. Thank you for being so inspirational and all of your hard work.
Yay! I'm really glad that people find what we do inspirational.
Indeed. Have you raised seahorses?
I have.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Years ago, actually. I was probably in my early 20s when I did seahorses. I was working at the Big Owls in Oakville. I set up multiple seahorse tanks there. I often had pairs of seahorses in 20-gallon tall tanks, which are like 2 10-gallons stacked up on each other. Nice and tall. They like to use the height when they're courting. Although if I ever did another seahorse tank, I'd probably go bigger. I'd probably do like a 45 column or something. I just find they do better with more space. And I've had them breed. I never took enough time to truly rear the babies because I only worked part-time at that time, and I couldn't rely on my coworkers to do the research to try and do it. It was, at the time, not a lot of people were doing it. We're talking more than 10 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Is it popular now or something? Is that something?
Oh, yeah. I think we've come a long way in the hobby, and there are people out there who breed seahorses successfully and feed them. It's just baby seahorses are so wee. They are tiny. And most people rearing seahorses have I think it's 85% of the babies don't make it, and then you have a small portion that do make it, but seahorses have hundreds of babies. So you still get, you still rear a fair amount.
Right.
But long story short, I have done it. I love it. They are very specific tanks you have to set up. You set it up kind of like a biotope, species specific. They're lower light, very low flow. Great filtration still, though. You got to make sure that they have anchors to hang on to so that they're comfortable. You don't really want to put them in a reef tank where they're going to grab onto things that could burn them. They don't do well with other fish because they don't compete for food very well. A lot of the time, even when you get captive race seahorses, you have to train them to eat from a certain place so that they always have access to their food because they are slow. Okay. Yeah, so it's different. It's a different type of hobby. It's in the same way different that keeping jellyfish is different. They have very specific care requirements. It is not the same as keeping regular fish. But if you learn it and you're fascinated by it, I highly recommend looking into it, doing the research. It'll take some research, but I think in the end you'll really enjoy it. I'm not even opposed to keeping seahorses again. Maybe I'll do it again.
Seems kind of neat.
I really do like them. A good alternative that can do well in reef tanks that are not super high flow are dragon pipefish. I've kept dragon pipes in, they're like a seahorse that's kind of long and skinny and snaked out. But I've kept them in reef tanks and they've done quite well. Just not high velocity like SPS tanks where there's a maelstrom of water in there. But yeah, that's an alternative if you don't want to go down the seahorse route.
Awesome. Will a Bolivian ram be okay with a yo-yo loach?
Yeah. That shouldn't be an issue.
Sweet. Awesome. How come I have a layer of scum on the top of the water?
Because in your aquarium there are biological processes to which the end result is often a protein-like substance that acts like an oil, floats to the surface of the water, and sits there. We have an awesome device that you can purchase for yourself called an Eheim surface skimmer.
Yes,
and
we did a video on that.
Yeah, we did. We totally did. Well, yeah, we'll link the video. So the Eheim surface skimmer will take that surface water, suck it down into and through a sponge, and effectively just nullify the slick on the top of the water. And that's really the only way to do it. And you'll notice if you increase flow from your filter, you'll have a nice clean spot of water and then film everywhere else. This will actually suck the film into itself, completely removing the film all the time. They're very easy to do maintenance on. They work extremely easily. It's a quick little device you drop in and you won't have to look at that anymore, which is always my preference. I like overflows for that reason, like setting up some systems with overflows because you don't get surface film with those either.
Cool.
Haha.
Okay. Good tip. So I've linked the Skim 350. I'll link the video as well. But actually, it turns out the Skim 350, just so you know, on BigAlspets.com is like $10 off right now.
Oh, so, that's awesome.
Yeah. So if you are interested, or if you're having problems with scum or whatever on your surface, maybe check it out. Check out our video as well. See if it's right for you. And if it is, hey, you get $10 off.
And they're smaller than that photo makes them look. That photo makes them look big. They're small. They're
they're really unimposing.
They're very this big around and like this tall. They're small.
I don't actually think this one's a question. I'm going to read it anyway. We recently took home a beautiful butterfly Betta that we have named Ulmo, King of the Sea, and Lord of Waters.
I love it.
Yeah, he's in the smaller tank, but we would love to put him in a bigger 20-gallon tank.
That's, you know what?
Hold on, sorry. With that said, what other fish would likely be okay to share with him? Share a tank with him.
I have always recommended fast-moving fish that have humble finnage, let's say, when you're going to house fish with a betta. That and bottom feeders tend to do okay because they stay out of the betta's way. So if your beta's on sand, you could do something like Cory catfish, or if you move up to a 20, you might even be able to do, who knows? Some other type of armored cat would be fine. Maybe like a hopolo catfish. But for other free swimming fish that are going to be using up most of the water column, zebra danios do really, really well because they are quick and the betta often can't get to them, which is the key thing. You just got to, make sure that your betta doesn't get stressed by the fish being there and the fish don't get picked on by the betta. You want to stay away from things like guppies or gouramis or anything else that the betta can perceive as a showy threat to their territory, because it will likely make an issue with it. Yeah.
Cool. The best way to get rid of brown diatoms.
Freshwater or saltwater. Brown diatoms is usually something you get during your cycle. It can often also happen if you have a fluctuation of phosphate or nutrient in the water. So do some water tests, see where your phosphates are, see where your nitrates are. If you're in the middle of your cycle or at the end of your cycle, they will correct themselves over time. Usually you get diatom algae or the other one, which name I can't remember for some silly reason, before you get green algae. And then once you start getting green algae, the other algae can't compete and dies off. And then you just deal with green algae using a cleanup crew.
All right. Any tips for parrotfish, for keeping parrotfish?
Teach them to talk. No, I'm just kidding.
That would be awesome. You'd be rich.
That would be awesome. Are you talking about freshwater or saltwater parrotfish? I'm going to assume freshwater. If that's it, they're a cichlid. They're pretty easy. Get a good size aquarium for them. They're going to get very large. I would probably, for a group of parrots, like 2 or 3 parrotfish, I'd probably do better with like 3 or 5. But I would say you're going to want somewhere around 75 to 90 gallons. For a single parrotfish, 65 would probably be okay. And get a good filter because they are a messy fish. They eat a lot, poop a lot.
Kind of like goldfish?
Yeah.
What's messy?
Like any big cichlid.
Yeah.
Oh, what's messier?
just
Predators.
curious.
Predators are messier because they often make a mess when they eat. And then poop out tons of poop.
Okay. So I have a water softener for the house. Will the salt in the soft water hurt a reef? And if so, will a RODI system remove enough salt from the water to make it usable?
You know what's awesome? I had to look this up not long ago because I am now on a well system, which I've never been on. And a part of my well system is a water softening system. I would never use straight water from anything on a reef, personally. Not well water, not city water, I would never do it. I always use RODI. So what I was looking up when I was doing research was, does the RODI go before or after the water softening system? A lot of people on forums and stuff had no clue, and it was, some people said before, some people said after, some people said the salt's going to hurt the membrane. I talked to some water companies that deal with RDI systems and water softening systems and all that, and I was told categorically by every single one to put it after everything. It's the last thing you have. So after all the filtration you have in your house and after the salt water softening system, the RODI system would go there, and that the salt in the system would not hurt anything on your RODI. That's what I was told. So that is what I have done. And so far, it is working just fine.
Cool.
And I probably put just, so far it's working just fine is ambiguous. I've probably put 2,000 gallons through it, and there has been zero anything to show for it.
Alrighty, next up, okay, this is a bit of a, I think you're going to have to use your imagination.
Okay.
What peaceful fish that's either green, blue, orange, or yellow, adult size, is this a riddle? Adult size 4 to 6 inches would not eat Nerite snail nor a mono shrimp that would be in a tank with parameters of the temperature 70 to 76 and pH between 7 and 7.5. What fish would work for that?
Bosemani rainbows.
You're on point.
Basically, any of those freshwater rainbows would be fine. They have small mouths. They often won't go for things like shrimp. They're not going to bother your snails. They do get, probably not 6 inches, but they'll get up to 4 inches, no problem. Maybe close to 6. They are peaceful, and they fit all those colors. You can even get red ones. All right, done. Booyah! Bookachoo!
Pretty impressive. Okay, hey guys, just started in the hobby. Welcome. And finding the videos really useful. Awesome. I have a 60-liter tank with Emperor and Cardinal tetras. I'd like to try and breed the tetras, but my water pH is 7.4. Is this too low?
Probably too high. pH, like a lot of tetras really prefer to be in a comfy pH somewhere around 6 to 6.5, if I'm not mistaken. Although tetras come from different parts of the world, I think, so it would really depend what what species. Okay, long story short, anytime you want to breed fish and do it as successfully as possible, find out everything you can about their natural habitat and emulate it. And that would be, just creating a biotope for those fish. I think biotopes for cardinal tetras are silty bottoms tanks, so it's like sand or something like that. A lot of thin sticks and branches poking down into the aquarium, creating a lot of crevices, lots of leaf litter in the tank, lot of creating tannins, and probably some plants like Java moss could probably be used, something like that, to create cover as well. They are very dark looking tanks because of the amount of tannin in the water, but that I believe is where neons and cardinals naturally come from, that sort of setup. And then they, if I'm not mistaken, they lay their eggs on these sticks or plants, whether it's like long stringy plants like vals or something. And that's probably how I would try and set them up. But you need to do research on where they're from, what their habitat looks like, and emulate that for them. You also need to know if things like seasonal changes are what bring about breeding behavior. Because if a fish won't breed unless it thinks there's been a change in season, you have to emulate that in order to push them into breeding. So you got to do some research. I don't have all the answers, but I've got a good direction to point you in. Haha. Next.
Cool. Next up, we are I think just about at a racetrack, so we'll ask a couple more, and then we'll wrap up.
And then I think I'm having the one-on-one call with our lucky winner.
Yeah. So before the holidays, before the Christmas break, on our very last Q&A before the break, we had told people to send in photos of how they celebrate the holidays or New Year's or whatever with their pets. And our lucky winner, Madeline, she sent in some really cute photos of her, not only her fish, but her pup, wearing a Christmas hat, a Santa hat, with his present from Santa and celebrating the New Year. So she won a very cool little prize. She's going to get a one-on-one Skype call from Thomas. She's going to get to show him her tank, ask him one-on-one any questions she has, which is kind of neat. Just one-on-one, which is a huge thing. I mean, these Q&As are great, but she'll get his undivided attention for a little while. So if you guys think you'd be interested in something like that in the future, let us know, and we will do more of those Thomas's Time giveaways.
Yay!
So with all that said, my freshwater high-fin shark does not eat. What should I do?
High-fin shark. Look that up real quick.
Okay. High-fin shark is that guy right there.
Okay, so first off, Chinese high-fin banded sharks are a cold water species. So if it's not in a cold water tank, that could be a problem. They also get humongous. So if they don't have enough space, that could be a problem. I don't have a good answer for you because there are too many factors. Check all of your water quality, check all your parameters. You look up the exact parameters that high-fin sharks require, see what's off, if anything is off, and check what food you're feeding. Have you tried different foods? Are you only working on prepared foods? Is there some sort of frozen option or a whole food you could provide them that's meatier? Or I don't know if they could be herbivores. I don't know. I've never kept one. I just know that they get massive, and they're often kept in tropical tanks when they're cold water. So check those things out. I'm sorry I don't have a more direct answer for you, but that's, yeah. I can't know everything about every fish, but I do know a little bit about a lot of fish.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so thank you guys so much. I guess that's it. We're at a racetrack, but thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you guys showing up here for these Q&As. It's the reason we do it. We love actually...
I also love, that you guys answer each other in the top chat or in the chat as well.
Yeah, I think JW Aquarium's here. I think he's been going through this whole time and just helping answer questions.
Thank you so much, guys. I love that we've got a discussion going on in there and not just, us answering your questions. I love that we've built like a little community, and these Q&As I adore them. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah, no, again, we thank you guys so much for joining us. If you guys would like to support us, if you like our videos and you want to see more videos and bigger videos and crazy awesome videos, we want to make those. So if you want to support us, I'm just going to drop a link. Sort of the best place, apart from viewing our videos and actually subscribing. If you want to support us, you can do it at that link I've just linked up in the chat, bigalspets.com. Support us there. make sure you share our channel. Our goal is to get to 100,000 subs. Hopefully this year. It shouldn't be an issue. We should be able to do it.
I am personally have made it my mission to get a really cool giveaway going.
Yeah.
To help kind of get more people to become a part of the Big Al's VOD subscribership, and ultimately I wanted to find a way to give back to everybody who's already a part of our subscribership, because you guys are amazing. So I am working my little tail off, getting all kinds of prizes.
Yeah.
My goal is also not only to have a big grand prize, but also to have a lot of small prizes to go around, and not like tiny, like they're still pretty substantial, but yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have some stuff coming. I know a lot of you guys have been saying, do a contest.
Yeah, so just keep tuning into our Q&As. Hopefully we'll have stuff soon that we can give away his time, which is always valuable. And then keep watching all our vids. That's I guess about it. Anything else from you? Anything else to say to these lovely people?
I love everyone. And thank you so much for coming. And also,
that's very nice.
Keep on tanking, guys.